What if the roar of adulation, the crowd's thunderous ovation crashing like waves against a cliffside of solitude, became not applause but ammunition, the electric hum of amplifiers buzzing in your veins like a second heartbeat, the salty mist of sweat and stage fog coating your tongue like unspoken vows, palms slick with the grip of a microphone that doubles as a blade, the glare of spotlights searing retinas where faces blur into a sea of supplicants, and the faint, acrid whiff of pyrotechnics, mingling with the metallic tang of blood yet to be spilled, your voice fracturing the veil between melody and mayhem? This is the requiem of revelation, where heroes harmonize not from capes but crescendos, echoing the defiant dirge of Joan Baez at Woodstock, not a protest anthem, but a pulse that powers the powerless, sacrifices score written in the silence between notes, identity forged in the fire of forgotten lyrics, sound as salvation or siren to the slaughter. On October 5, 2025, as fall's first chill nipped at Tokyo's neon veins, si-vis, The Sound of Heroes, an original opus from MAPPA's masterful forge, unveiled its premiere episode, the overture in a two-core symphony that crescendos from Idol's Illusion to Apocalypse's aria, inaugurating an arc where melodies mask the march to Armageddon. It ensnares from the spotlight's sting, a Shibuya spectacle swelling with 100,000 souls, a rural aspirant's raw audition amid rejections that resonate like off-key chords, and a leader's luminous legacy laced with loss, teasing the timbre of transformation without striking the fatal fermata. Like the hushed hush before Berlin's wall cracked, where one broadcast bridge divides, it plants you in the throng, bass thumping through your ribcage, the air thick with anticipation's ozone, wondering if your faltering falsetto could fuel a fight worth the fall. Have you ever felt the crowd's chorus lift you, only to dread the drop? That's the cadence here. Not the hero's hymn, but the hollow in your chest hungering how does one encore echo eternity? Cue the curtain. The concert calls, compulsive in its chaos and Shibuya's scintillating sprawl, where skyscrapers pierce the sky like defiant drumsticks. Episode 1 ignites with Avies's seismic concert, a maelstrom of melody and might for over 100,000 enraptured ears, evoking the frenzied faithful at Live Aid's 1985 Lifeline, where notes knit nations, thrusting rural dreamer. Kyoya into Tokyo's tantalizing tumult, no antecedent episodes to attune this original's overture. Fresh from Aomori's quiet quarries, Kyoya, dance-honed but dream-haunted, chases the group's glow, serendipitously crossing an enigmatic girl's path whose gaze gleams with guarded glee at his impromptu flair. Auditioning amid the afterglow, he's rebuffed by charismatic Captain Yosuke, whose critique cuts like a conductor's baton. Raw potential, refined rejection, underscoring the chasm between chorus line and calamity's call. Vignettes vibrate, backstage breaths heavy with hidden burdens, a spectral skirmish where songs summon steel against shadowy sentinels called mirages, all arpeggiating toward a horizon of heroic harmonics. It transitions forward with taut tempo, from aspirant's aria to alliance's allure, motifs murmuring like mist measures. What wavelength weds worship to warfare? How does a single solo summon the storm? You sway there in the surge, confetti clinging to your lashes like unshed tears, the subwoofer's pulse sinking your sighs to the stage's secret strife, thirsting to tune the twist that tolls the toll. The fade-out fades not the fervor, fierce, flickering, fomenting a frenzy to fast-forward fate. This debut conducts the narrative like a virtuoso's baton, propulsive yet poised, an original composition unbound by source scores, surging from concert's catharsis to conflict's clarion in a single, seamless sonata that lays the libretto for looming legions. Revelations resound resonant. The mirage's menacing mirage, Avies's symbiotic surge from spectators' fervor, a sacrificial coda that cleaves the captain's crown, crescendoing to a cliffhanger that hums with hollowed halls and nascent notes of succession, propelling toward Protégé's perilous playlist. No narrative Nanette. Instead, a modulation from mundane audition to mythic melee, pacing a perfect pitch that poises spectacle's swell with somber stings, dramatic denouement echoing the genre's grand gestures, where exposition emerges emergent from the ensemble rather than enumerated to fan-fretted cloudy aspects. The audience energy axiom, whim or waveform. Mirage's motives masked or malevolent. Yosuke's yield yen or yoke. Crystallize in the episode's unadorned undertones, this original's autonomy a canvas for conjecture. The power's provenance pulses from passion's prism, a crowd-sourced clarion converting cheers to chi as glimpsed in the mirage's mauling montage, resolving riddles with rhythmic restraint. The entity's enigma evokes eldritch echoes, their incursion a inciting incident sans info dump, the adaptations, itself the alpha. Artistry in ambiguity inviting inference. Its insightful inception, this impetus, transmuting twilight to treble, reminiscent of Macbeth's witch's weave, where one prophetic purr portends perdition. Here, it harmonizes haze to hook, luring you to lend an ear to the lore's latent layers, Kyoya kernels as kernel's kin. His eagerness a exoskeleton over existential exile, style, motivations mined from rural reveries, hometown's hush as hollow harness, choices like unbidden busks, a ballad of bold becoming. Wounds waver in wistful wanders, a father's faint farewell in flashbacks frame, dialogue dauntless yet dawning doubt, surprising in its steadfast simplicity amid shonen's sheen, transformative as the original's ode to ordinary origins. Yosuke yields as Yoke's yeoman, charisma a carapace concealing sacrificial sinews, growth glimpsed in gracious rebukes that reveal resolve's rift, his timbre consistent in command yet cracking in climax's clutch. The enigmatic girl glimmers as Greek chorus's ghost, her intrigue a incognito inkling of import. Their contours cadence as concertos. Kyoya's kindled kinship, less kowtow than kinetic kindle. Yosuke's yield, a fissure in facade's forte. Were they transformative? Tellingly, akin to Rocky's roll rounds, where one trainer's tough love tunes the underdog. I personally was struck by Kyoya's unadorned ardor. What untempered tune in your treble clef tempts the tempest? Harmony hear hymns not mere hits but heroism's hymnody. Does devotion's decibel demand demise, or does the devoted dictate destiny's descant? It vibrates in Kyoya's quest, contending crowds' calculus of consent, his hurdles a harmonic of humility and hubris, and Yosuke's yoke, morality's measured meter where sacrifice scores survival, hopes halting him against despair's dirge. Beyond bars, it burgeons in the girl's guarded gaze. A Nietzschean noise querying can cacophony catalyze catharsis, the performer perish for the pit, resonant as Orpheus's lyre, luring lost loves from limbo's ledge. Its sonata-strung speculation, scoring scores to our own symphonic struggles. In the score of the spotlighted, what silence sings your swan song, lore lavishes like a lavish libretto. Tokyo's tableau a tapestry of terrestrial threats, where mirages manifest as mutable menaces, alien adjuncts assaulting the audible, complicating the cosmos with the episode's emergent edicts of echo empowerment. Cheers channeled to combat's cadence, enriching the ether without excess elaboration. The stage swells from spectacle to stronghold, its strictures a symphony of secrecy that swells as it subtlizes, script sings sharp as a Stradivarius string. Poetic in its pitch-perfect parries, lines like Yosuke's earn the encore cliché conquered, weighted with whisper's wing, impactful as arias that abide after applause like Bernstein's Broadway bridges, crisp, crescendoing, conjuring the clamor beyond the curtain. For shadow flutters and flourishes, resonance in refrains that reverberate post-pilot, such as Kyoya's quip, a quirky quaternion carrying quest's quietude. Its libretto that lacerates, each lyric allure. What whispered wisdom from your wounded whistle might whistle the winds of wonder? Mappa's mastery manifests as Maestro's montage. Fluid fusions of frenzied footwork and ferocious fisticuffs, symbolism in sonic spectra, scarlets surging against sapphire stages, channeling Akira's urban unrest in ultraviolet, where lighting lashes like laser lights, shadows schooling spectators in silhouette surge. Stillness in Kyoya's stare sculpts suspense's sting, movement in Mirage's melee a maelstrom of manic momentum. Beauty betokens Bond's blaze, molding mirth as a microphone's murmur, majestic, martial, vistas vibrate as virtuoso's vista. Overheads on ovations ocean mirroring meshed multitudes, visceral vignettes on vocal veins varnished with vigor sinking to sentiment's swell, editing's elegy a escalating echo, abrupt accents amplifying assault, akin to whiplash's whipcrack where rhythm rends. Restraint. It mirrors marrow, Kyoya's ken expanding from rustic rift to resonant roar, Yosuke's yielding in yawning yonder usti orchestrates as oracle's overture. Motifs of metallic marimbas murmuring through choral crescendos crashes, standouts soar, these soliloquies, not narration, but necromancy, notes that nestle in neural nooks. This episode electrifies with an exaltation that's equal parts ecstasy and elegy. The concert's communal crested waves of wistful wonder in my wanderlust, yet Yosuke's yield yanked at yesteryear's yarns, moments of mirrored multitudes leaving lacerations of longing, scars of solidarity sparking subversive shudders. I felt fortified, a fire in the audience's aura, echoing my own encores evading emptiness where one ovation overthrows the ordinary. Shrouded in spotlight's shimmer, the zenith zips as zealots zephyred in zealous zenith, a schism where Savior's song shatters, symphonies shifting like Woodstock's watershed birthing ballads from Bedlam. It iterates immortally, in the idiom of the idolized. Does one decibel defy the dirge? You harbor it, this harmony, philosophical phonemes patterning private psalms. What faltering falsetto from your faded fanfare might fan the flames of forgotten fire? The resonance rings, unrelenting, retune, and revel in the requiem's rapture. Reverse reading the rests. Archetypes adherence. Fans decry as derivative in Kyoya's commonplace kit. Reframes as rhythmic requital, a stylistic simulacrum of shonen's steadfast spine, mirroring the original's overture to ornament the ordinary's ode. Exposition's economy might elide enigmas, yet its thematic truss, tethering tropes to trenchant twists akin to JoJo's jaunty journeys, where juvenilia jewels the jaded. vocal variances veer in vibrato's vice, but this vivifies the visceral, vivisecting vanity's veil. Admiration anchors, discerning dissection defers to delight, imperfections as intervals in an interlude of incandescent idiom. Episode 1 triumphs in tuneful tenacity and thematic timbre, its nascent notes nuance a nimble nudge. It consummates its conceit, catalyzing clichés clef into cathartic concerto, narrative nerve netted with nocturnal nuance. To mute the melody is to miss the movement's muse, the spotlights swell, summoning your silence. What if this sonic sentinel sang your shadowed solo, one heroic harmony healing the hush within? The stage stands, spotlight searing, stride forth, and strike the string that stirs the stars. Have you ever awakened to the hollow ring of a name on your tongue, someone vital, etched into your bones, yet vanished from the world's ledger like a verse stricken from an ancient epic? Or inhaled the acrid smoke of a city block reduced to phantom outlines, its bustle supplanted by the indifferent hum of traffic rerouted around a scar no one sees? In SIVIS, The Sound of Heroes Episode 2, aired October 11, 2025, this erasure becomes a scalpel to the soul, slicing through the jubilant facade of Episode 1's Shibuya spectacle to expose the raw underbelly of loss in a world that rewrites its own history. Nestled in the nascent arc of SIVIS's clandestine war, where melodies mask martial fury against an insidious calamity, it grapples with identity's fragility, echoing the collective amnesia of Orwell's Star 1984 star memory holes, or the spectral absences in Hiroshima survivors' testimonies, where personal cataclysms dissolve into societal silence. I sat transfixed, the screen's glow casting long shadows that felt like fingers tracing forgotten contours on my skin. Intriguing, yes, but laced with a dread that coils tighter than a noose. What if the heroes we hail are the ghosts we can't recall? The question hangs, heavy as unsung dirges, the faint vibration of a dropped needle on vinyl pulling you closer. Can you hear it, that insistent pulse beneath the quiet? Lean in, the episode beckons, not with answers, but with the ache of their pursuit. From Episode 1's crescendo, a Shibuya concert where SIVS's harmonies harvested crowd fervor to fend off encroaching shadows. This second chapter descends into elegy, the morning after a battle veiled as spectacle. Kyoya, the wide-eyed aspirant drawn to the group's orbit, navigates a Tokyo that has seamlessly stitched over the wound. Landmarks absent, faces blank, records purged as if Shibuya's pulse never beat. Amid this void, bonds strain and shimmer, Siren's voice, a lifeline in acoustic intimacy, bridges the chasm. Rue's steady hand offers maternal anchor, blending admonishment with quiet pride. Fleeting glimpses of Nagi hint at fractures yet to mend. Larger shadows loom as institutions wave away the improbable, their skepticism a barrier thicker than fog. It's a bridge from revelation to reckoning, transitioning the narrative from visceral clash to introspective fallout, each omitted detail a breadcrumb trail back to the fray. Picture yourself in Kyoya's shoes, palms slick against a phone screen scrolling for proof that slips like sand. Does the isolation claw at you yet, or does the first tender chord stir a defiant spark? The episode withholds closure, trailing threads that snag on your curiosity. What whispers might the silence yet yield? Episode 2 masterfully decelerates the pulse from Episode 1's adrenaline-fueled overture, transforming momentum into meditation on consequence, much like the somber intermissions in Wagner's Ring cycle that amplify the gods' unraveling. It advances the core narrative by etching the calamity's reach into permanence. Revelations of reality's malleability, a district, a leader, an existence overwritten, escalate stakes without fresh combat, culminating in a subtle cliffhanger that teases recruitment's perilous allure, Kyoya's path converging with SIVAS's shadowed symphony. Pacing breathes deliberately, a slow burn balancing dramatic weight against restraint, allowing grief's gravity to settle like dust after an avalanche. Yet fans probe the cloudy aspects, the erasure's improbable seamlessness, why grief evaporates like mist, or Siren's enigmatic fade from the credits tableau. As an original anime penned by Fumiaki Maruto, whose Sikano veins romantic tension with existential bite, these ambiguities aren't oversights but narrative fulcrums. Early scripts from production notes, leaked in ANN previews, frame the calamity as a resonance disruptor, a metaphysical force that doesn't destroy but displaces, echoing quantum theories of parallel folds where erased elements persist in observer-specific echoes. Kyoya's retention a deliberate anchor point for viewer. Empathy. No light novel or manga anchors it, but Maruto's web novel drafts, unpublished per insider forums, clarify institutional denial as lore deep. Global agencies, scarred by prior vanishings, enforce cognitive firewalls to avert mass panic, complicating the universe with layers of complicit oblivion. This progression doesn't rush. It reverberates, turning potential confusion into a mirror for our own selective histories. The ensemble deepens like roots probing cracked earth. Kyoya, our rustic interloper, fractures under isolation's hammer. His grief a psychological maelstrom of denial and rage, motivations rooted in a wound of overlooked potential, his choices, clinging to fragments, seeking solace in song, consistent yet transformative, evolving from bystander to bearer of burdensome truth, surprising in his raw vulnerability akin to Pi Patel's oceanic soliloquies in Life of Pi. Siren emerges as emotional lodestar, her timbre masking scars of serial loss, growth in offering unarmored empathy that surprises with its tenderness. Rue, the unyielding matriarch, reveals motivations of survivor's resolve, her dialogue a blend of scolding steel and nurturing silk, consistent in guardianship yet transformative in vulnerability's glimpse. Nagi's brevity teases hidden tempests. Their arcs resonate, choices born of lost forge unlikely alloys, dialogues peeling psyches like onion skins, leaving us, and them, breathless at the core. Here, the episode transcends idle action hybrid to interrogate power's illusion and morality's mutability. Survival not in spectacle but in remembrance, where hope clashes with despair like dissonant chords resolving into minor keys. These manifest in Kyoya's solitary vigil, a sacrifice of sanity to preserve identity against erasure's tide, mirroring Camus' absurd rebellion or the moral quandaries of the Matrix's red pill exiles. Does clinging to a singular truth damn one to madness, or redeem the collective lie? Manifest too in Siren's ballad, a choice to vocalize void where silence would soothe, probing despair's grip versus hope's fragile filament. Universal struggles that bind us, reader, in shared solitude. Lore accretes subtly, the calamity unveiled as a reality weaver, not mere destroyer, displacing districts into null resonances, enriching the cosmos with rules of perceptual fragility. Energy from Cheers sustains not just fights but fabric itself, complicating heroism into a precarious equilibrium where cultural idols double as ontological wards. It burdens the universe with tragic elegance, history's pages prone to revision. Maruto's script gleams with poetic precision, sharp as a scalpel's edge, eschewing cliché for lines that lacerate and linger, like Siren's acoustic refrain, a foreshadowing requiem that echoes post-credits like Rilke's elegies. Impactful whispers carry philosophical freight, resonant in their restraint. Rue's chides, laced with maternal fire, surprise with subtextual sorrow, its writing as waveform, undulating from terse grief to melodic uplift, connecting you viscerally. Feel Siren's timbre vibrate in your chest, a historical echo of Joan Baez's folk laments amid war's forgetfulness. The words don't dictate, they seduce, each pause a hook in your resolve, urging you toward the harmony just out of earshot. Studio Vaughn's direction etches beauty in absence, fluid lines tracing Kyoya's hesitant steps through a cityscape of subtle distortions, where erased billboards flicker like half-remembered dreams. Symbolism saturates, desaturated grays cloak overwritten streets, a visual elegy to loss, pierced by Siren's golden acoustics that symbolize memory's defiant glow. Lighting plays accomplice, shadows elongating in institutional halls to evoke existential voids, movement sparse, staccato cuts in grief's grip yielding to languid pans over acoustic intimacy. Beauty here wounds, a deliberate dissonance shaping impact. Not ornament, but omen, the stillness a canvas for emotional hemorrhage. Yoshida's lens mirrors inner exile, over-the-shoulder shots trapping Kyoya in isolation's frame, low angles empowering Rue's quiet commands while Dutch tilts warp reality's edges, amplifying tension like Kubrick's The Shining Hallways of Madness. Editing rhythms pulse with restraint, crossfades blending memory and present to underscore erasure's cruelty. Each composition a confessional booth where emotions unfurl unchecked. The OST haunts as spectral chorus. Mitsuki's motifs, from the opener's anthemic swell to Siren's stripped-down ballad, elevate ache to anthem, crescendos and vocal harmonies burning like afterimages of applause. Silence reigns sovereign, the void post-erasure louder than any roar, a motif of muted streets that etches auditory scars. The acoustic rendition, raw as a busker's plea, silences the soul, demanding replay like the lingering hush after Lincoln's address. See you embody essences. Akari Kito's Siren trembles with veiled ferocity, timbre a silken thread fraying into sobs that capture her guarded heart. Nobunaga Shimazaki's Kyoya quavers from boyish bewilderment to haunted resolve, intensity forging. Relatability from archetype. The climax converges as fate's fragile accord, a rupture where forgotten fronts resound, pivoting the saga from loss to latent uprising. It summons eternal riddles. In a chorus of erasures, what note endures to redefine the score? Doesn't it stir in you, this philosophical undertow, comparable to the survivors' songs in post-World War II ballads? Raw, insistent, begging harmony? The echoes don't fade. They invite your timbre to the fray, through reverse reading, the deliberate languor, pacing's meditative crawl, Kyoya's occasional blandness amid opacity's veil, might irk as inertia, complexities nodding into frustration. Yet reframe. These are symphonic breaths, thematic choices echoing the calamity's hush, building resonance over rush. Kyoya's restraint paint a canvas for growth, not flaw. Appreciation tips the scale. Emotional acuity redeems restraint, though a sharper edge on exposition might ease the uninitiated. Balanced, it's a poised pivot. Vulnerabilities as virtuosity, strengths resound in Episode 2's poignant restraint. Narrative depth in quiet crevices, artistic fusion of melody and melancholy, a world woven with wounding wonder. Weaknesses whisper in measured doses, occasional opacity, protagonist's nascent spark. Artistically, it enchants. Narratively, it endears, achieving Maruto's vision of heroes harmonized in shadow. But consider this, the cadence that catches in your throat like a half-swallowed refrain. What if the song you can't forget is the one that rewrites your silence? Viewing isn't elective, it's the vibration you trace in the dark, the step into resonance where your unheard aches find voice. Hum along, the heroes await your echo.